Oh, give me a home where the buffalo roam, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and
The Adventures of Cowboy Jessie and Cowboy Earl by H.R. Hunsaker. Tonight's episode, The Caravan.
Earl was in the barn tending to his horse as a storm was brewing on the plains. There was thunder in the distance, followed by the roar of raging hoofprints as Jessie rode up all astir. Jessie dismounted his horse and pulled him by the bridle into the barn. Earl, said Jessie as he tried to catch his breath. Come quick. There's a caravan of trucks cutting across the ranch, heading towards the reservation. Earl knew what was going on, and he tried to calm Jessie. Let it go, Jessie. They're just tobacco runners heading to the reservation. Tobacco runners? Asked Jessie. How do you know about that? Earl should have kept his mouth shut. Now he'd have to explain to Jessie about the deal he and the widow had struck with the Indians. Jessie, about the time everyone got health conscious and started eating skinless chicken breasts, the government began overtaxing cigarettes and everything else that other people thought were bad for you. Jessie stood listening as Earl went on. Anyway, we weren't moving many cattle, and the widow's money was starting to dry up. We ended up striking a deal with the Indians to let the tobacco runners have safe passage in exchange for money to keep the ranch afloat. But Earl, that's wrong, just plain wrong, said Jessie. What's wrong, Jessie, explained Earl, is to tell a man what he can or can't have and trying to make him feel bad for enjoying it. But Earl, Jessie said with certainty, tobacco and cigarettes are bad for you. So is everything else, fired back Earl. Shoot, Jessie, I've seen you tear off into town on Friday night, and if you weren't going to Bible study, then I'd say you were up to something that someone else thought was bad for you. Jessie got sheepish. I suppose you're right, Earl. There was a silence between the two cowboys as the rain began to pelt on the roof of the barn and the storm picked up strength. Earl went back to tending to his horse and made the final cinch to the saddle belt. On cue, Jessie asked exactly what Earl knew he was going to ask. So, Earl, what is it you do that people think is bad for you? Earl mounted his horse and trotted it just outside of the barn and into the storm. He pulled back on the bridle until the horse reared up on his hind legs, and just before he spurred it for a wild ride, he looked down to Jessie and announced in spectacular fashion, Jessie, I ride horses in thunderstorms. The end.
Word, and the skies are not cloudy.